Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Liz, I'm in my library, and today I'm going to share with you a bunch of books that I bought for myself for my birthday. Really, probably should say my husband got them for me. I picked them out, but he paid for them. So let's just dive in. The first book I want to talk about is Yellowface by R F Kuang. And I don't know if you can tell, but I already read this. I read this book in 3 days. To sum it up real quick, this book is in the running for my favorite book of the year, I think. I really, really love this book. One of the main themes is racism, cultural appropriation, diversity, that kind of thing. That's one of the overarching themes of this book, which is something that's right up my alley as a person of color, but also as a biracial woman. Cultural appropriation is one of those things that people get really heated about, and I find it very interesting. I want to learn what offends people and why it offends people. And it goes both ways. Like the subject of cultural appropriation, especially in this book, our protagonist is white, and she very much does not understand any of the concepts of cultural appropriation, racism. From her perspective, people of color have it easier in the industry. People of color are favored in the industry from her perspective. I'm going to film a separate video on this book. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to get into all of the themes. I'm going to get into spoilers. I'm going to tell you all of my thoughts because this is one that just really scratched an itch for me that I really loved. And another one of the themes that I wanted to mention is a theme of like social media and cancel culture, which is another theme that I'm really interested in. I wouldn't say I came of age on the internet, but I definitely, in my early to mid 20s, turned to the internet for a lot, for community, for support, for creativity, a creative outlet, for learning things and access to information. And it's been that way ever since. So I have seen a lot of people rise to fame and become canceled and continue their careers or stop their careers, etc. I've seen a lot of that. So addressing that from our protagonist's perspective as a white woman is very interesting. It's so good. It's very satirical, I will say that. It's satirical, it's funny, it's sharp, it's gritty at times, but it was just a really fun, really good read for me. So that's the first book I wanted to haul. All right, next I have 3 books. These are the last 3 books of a series. I read the first one in the series in January. I read Wicked in January, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was really fun. I had to get the next 3 books. So unfortunately, these books don't match. I don't know. I ordered them off of Amazon. I'm a little bit like, oh, but oh well. So, so I got Son of a Witch, A Lion Amongst Men, and the last one is Out of Oz. And this is like, holy cow, I did not realize this was going to be this big. Wicked itself was a very long book. It's very like verbose. It's kind of, I don't know if you consider it literary, but there's a lot of description. There's a lot of detail that I think for some people it would be too much. So I'm expecting that in these books, but I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it. I think Gregory Maguire is a good writer, a fantastic world builder, and really good at the character development. So I'm excited to read these. I wish they all had the covers like this. This is how my copy of Wicked is. Yeah, right here. Here's my copy of Wicked. So, like, I wish I could have gotten all the books, but I don't know. I'm sure I could have. I just didn't take the time to figure it out. And the next one in this series would be Son of a Witch, Volume 2, In the Wicked Years. Yeah, so let me just see. So the talk of random brutality wasn't just talk. At noontime, they discovered the bodies of 3 young women out on some mission of conversion that appeared to have gone awry. That sounds interesting. Next is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I have not read anything from Riley Sager, but I'm really excited to because I love horror. I don't really know the premise of this, so let's read inside here. Now reduced to a schoolyard chant, the Hope family murders shocked the Maine coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assumed 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the people were never able to prove it. Interesting. Let's read the first line. It says, we're at the typewriter again. Lenora in her wheelchair and me standing beside her as I place her left hand atop the keys. A fresh page sits in the carriage, replacing the one from last night. Now face up on the desk, it serves as a partial transcript for our conversation. Okay, I don't know. I don't know about this one. It looks like it's going to be kind of an easy read. We'll see. I'm really excited to venture into the world of horror books. So if you have any of your favorite horror books that you'd like to recommend to me, please let me know. I am so grateful for recommendations. All right, the next book is called The Women Could Fly. This is by Megan Giddings. Not familiar with this author, but this book sounds amazing. I think it's going to be a little bit witchy, which I love. It looks like there's going to be social commentary in this book. I think it's about a girl who uncovers secrets about her mother. I don't know. I like to go in pretty blind in my books, so I'm not going to be able to give you guys like too much of a blurb of what they're about, but yeah, this one sounds really exciting and cover the cover is so pretty. And I'm sorry about the light. We have a window. I'm filming in my bedroom and we have a circle window at the top of our wall. And there's nothing I can do about it. I can't cover it. It's shining on me. I apologize. Hopefully it'll move away eventually, but other than that, like the natural light in here is really good, right? And you guys have to know about me. I have 4 kids and my husband works out of state, so I have to film when I can. And right now is when I can. All right, next up is a graphic novel that I love the movie version of this, so I'm really excited to read this. It is V for Vendetta. This is pretty, yeah, it says it's a classic bestseller. I think of this as kind of a classic. Let's see, let me see what year it came out in. It says 1989, 1982. Oh, it's based on books that were published in 1982. So this is fairly old, so like the 80s, 90s. And I remember when the movie came out, it was one of my favorite movies. I love Natalie Portman. I love the action and the violence and I love that movie. The story is kind of dystopian, which is another theme that I'm really into and want to read more of this year is like dystopian fiction, but that's written like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, not in like the last 10, 15 years, because that dystopian fiction is fine, but anything that's post Hunger Games, I feel like you can tell that it's what it's inspired by. And I like to dive into the older dystopian fiction just to kind of see what ideas people had before what feels like we all started having the same ideas, if that makes sense. Anyways, moving on. Since we're talking about dystopian fiction, here's another one. Fahrenheit 451. I've never read this. It's by Ray Bradbury. I believe this is a classic. Oh, it's got an introduction by Neil Gaiman. Okay. Published 60 years after its original publication. Guy Montag is a fireman. His job is to destroy the most illegal of commodities, the printed book, along with the houses in which they are hidden. Oh my gosh. Okay. The concept of banning a book is so interesting to me, especially banning it for children. It's just like, what are we trying to do? Why are we choosing this method to control people? Why do we feel the need to do this? It's just a concept that's very fascinating to me. Censorship, controlling information, all of that. But I feel like particularly right now in our political climate, it is especially relevant. The idea of information control, censorship, stuff like that. So cannot wait for this one. So the next 3 books are by female poets, but they're not poetry books. And I didn't really do that on purpose, but this is how it ended up. So I have Upstream by Mary Oliver. This is a collection of essays. Then I have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a fiction novel. And then I have Just Kids by Patti Smith, which is an autobiography. So I have 3 poets here, yet the 3 books I have are not poetry books. So I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not sure why I made the decisions, but I'm excited to read them. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about their style. And if you have any poetry books or any other poets that I should know about, please let me know in the comments. I live for recommendations, and my TBR can never be too long. If I had to pick a favorite cover of all the books that I'm hauling today, it would probably be this one. This is The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. So I'm not super familiar with this, but I think it's like 3 separate stories, maybe 3 like shorter stories all involved. Um, I'm not sure. Like I said, I prefer to go in blind, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm sorry that I don't have a lot, but hopefully that'll make this go quicker because I gotta wrap it up. I got a lot more to go. So, anyways, that is this one. Got a set of 5 Jodi Picoult books. The reason I bought this set was for this one on top here, 19 Minutes. This is one of the banned books that I was learning about recently. I believe it's about a school shooting, and it's really thick. I think these are all in the young adult um, genre, so that'll be interesting. So we have 19 Minutes, The Storyteller, A Spark of Light, Small Great Things, and Leaving Time. I have read Jodi Picoult before. I can't remember the name of the book I read though, so maybe I haven't, but I'm pretty sure I have. These are exciting. I don't think they're going to be particularly like super fun reads. I could be wrong, but I feel like she has kind of like a heaviness to her stories. So we'll see. But that is my Jodi Picoult section. All right, now an actual book of poetry. This is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jaqueline Woodson. So this is a collection of poems about the African American experience and about African American female experience, specifically Jaqueline Woodson and her childhood growing up in the 60s and 70s as an African American female. So I love poetry. I think this will be really interesting. As you can see, it's won a bunch of awards. So it's also something I want to have. With poetry books, I will usually keep them on my bookshelf in my office downstairs for about a month, and I'll read through them slowly. I want to kind of absorb the poems, so I'll probably take my time with this one. Next, I have When I Was a Slave, Memoirs from the Slave Narrative Collection. Just flipping through this, I can't wait to read this. This sounds so interesting and right up my alley. It is a collection of actual interviews with actual African American people who were slaves. Okay, so here's the list of narrators, the list of different voices, different people's stories that we're going to hear. And then it says their age when they were interviewed, who interviewed them, where they were interviewed. This person was interviewed at age 86, this person 88. It's just 93. I mean, how valuable is something like this? Hearing people's stories from their mouths, from their perspectives, on paper, having it in a book like this, it's just so special. As soon as I heard about this book, I knew that I had to add it to my collection because it just seems like the kind of thing that everybody should at least read and consider. Next is Perfect Black by Crystal Wilkinson. This is another collection of poems, I think. It also has a lot of cool images in it, which is super fun. There's a review by Kiki Petrosino, author of White, I don't know who that is, author of White Blood, but I just wanted to read this to you because it's exciting. She says, Crystal Wilkinson's Perfect Black is powerful witch work. In these cascading lyrics, Wilkinson casts her glittering net of protection over the bodies and hearts of every Black girl. I can't wait to read this. This is the book of Juju. It's a fascinating, informative guide to learning about traditional African and African diasporic spirituality and religion, including connecting with your ancestral spirits and developing a practice that incorporates their wisdom. This is extra relevant to me because it is part of my history, part of my ethnicity. I also have been really getting into learning about paganism and probably possibly like identifying as pagan myself, moving away from like organized religion and the dogma of Christianity and stuff like that. And I've been moving into more paganism. It just looks so fun. I'm so excited to learn about African spirituality. I can't imagine that they cover it all in this book. Africa is a huge continent with a huge history, but I'm really interested to see this. I think that there's going to be some practical applications, like ways that you can set up an altar and worship your ancestors or work with your ancestors, communicate with that, whatever it is. I'll have to read this, and this might be one that I do a whole video on, maybe with a couple other books. By the way, if there's something that you specifically want me to do a separate video on, please let me know. I'm open to anything right now. I'm just testing out on my YouTube channel. I'm just trying stuff out, seeing what works, seeing what you guys like, what I like to do, what I like to make, the content I want to make and want to talk about. So I'm always open for suggestions. Next is another book that I got from the banned book list, Boy Erased by Gerard Conley. So this is a memoir of Gerard Conley and his experience as a gay man growing up. And it sounds like he was outed by his parents. I'm not sure what happened, and it just kind of forced him to make, it says, life-changing decisions. Conversion therapy. Oh boy. I can tell this is going to be a tough read. So that's a subject that's really important to me. And as soon as I heard about this book and learned what it was about, I had to read it. I knew I had to read it. I think I even heard an interview with the author where he talks about conversion therapy and going to like conversion camp, and it blows my mind that this even exists in this day and age. But it does. I've seen it with my own eyes, and it's a real problem. So books like this need to be talked about. Next, I have a few, I think these are in the horror genre, I think. This next one is in the running for my favorite cover, although it's not. I still give it to the Simone de Beauvoir book, but this one is pretty fun too. Bunny by Mona Awad. I hear this about this one everywhere. It sounds weird. It sounds maybe a little dark, a little cultish. Can't wait. Very excited for this. We shall see. I'll keep you posted. Listen to Your Sister by Neena Viel, and this is her debut novel. So we'll see. I forgive me, but I am not going to read the back or anything because books like this, I'm going to go in blind. I'm going to take what I see from the image on the cover, and that's all I'm going to let myself have, and then I'm going to go in blind. You know what I will do though? I'll read the first sentence for you. Calla was wearing the wrong bra. There you go. Hungerstone. That's a beautiful cover if I've ever seen one. I love that. Gorgeous. Blood-drenched, glittering jewel of a novel. Oh, it's a feminist reworking of Carmilla, which is the queer novel that inspired Dracula. So is it a novel inspired by a novel that was inspired by a novel? It starts with blood. Yes. That was actually a really good first sentence. All right, we're getting to the end. I can see the bottom of the basket. Got a few more to go though. I think these are all again in the horror category. So I'm just gonna do what I did, and I'm just gonna tell you the title, I'm gonna tell you the author, and I'm gonna read the first sentence. I feel like that's better because then I'm not spoiling anything too much for myself. Okay. Victorian Psycho by Virginia Feito. Ooh, there's pictures. That's so cool. Ensor House sits on a stretch of moorland, all raised brows and double chin, like a clasp-handed banker about to deliver terrible news. Ooh, that's giving me like gothic, old school vibes. Next, we have Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder. When she had referred to herself as Nightbitch, she meant it as a good-natured, self-deprecating joke, because that's the sort of lady she was. A good sport, able to poke fun at herself, definitely not uptight, not wound really tight, not so freakishly tight that she couldn't see the humor in a lighthearted, not meant as an insult situation. But in the days following this new naming, she found the patch of coarse black hair sprouting from the base of her neck and was like, what the fuck? Now that is a first sentence. That is my kind of sentence. And that whole thing, yes, was one sentence. There was some dashes in there, but that was a sentence. That was a sentence. I think this might win for best first sentence. Next, I have two books by Stephen King. I have 11/22/63 and You Like It Darker. This is a collection of short stories. This one is a fiction novel, I think, and I'm pretty sure these are both newer of his books. I recently read Gerald's Game in January and loved it. It was like rocked my world, my first Stephen King book I'd ever read. Really enjoyed it, so I really wanted to grab a couple. I have a very long TBR list of Stephen King books, but thought that I would start with these two. Harry Dunning graduated with flying colors. Okay, okay. Next, I have Hex by Jenny Fagan. This book is described as a visceral depiction of what happens when a society is consumed by fear and superstition, exploring how the terrible force of a king's violent crusade against ordinary women can still be felt right up to present day. Yes, yes, this sounds amazing. Shall I read the first sentence? We'll just see. I was out in the null. That's not a very interesting first sentence. It's a really short read too. So I don't know. I don't know much about this, but sounds interesting. We shall see. Next, I am trying out a couple of, I don't know, chick lit romance type of books. And the first one is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I've heard a lot about Emily Henry. Some people really, really love her. And I'm down for a good, feel good. I assume it's more of like a feel good, fun, romantic story. So we'll see. I have no idea. I do think this might be set in the summer. The only reason I say that is because when I was looking for Emily Henry books specific, they all seem to be set in the summer and it's winter right now. And I just didn't want to read like a beachy book right now. So I might save this one for the summer. If it is set in the summer, it's just, it's not fun. Like, it's like I want to enjoy the season we're in. I don't want to be like, oh, I wish it was summer. Like, I'd rather read. I literally am staring at snow outside my window now. We have like 3 or 4 inches of snow. I'd rather read about the beauty of snow and the joys of winter rather than like, don't you wish it was summer? So I might wait on this one. So, funny story. And then I also picked up Normal People by Sally Rooney. My first Sally Rooney. I've not read anything from her that I am aware of. And I hear that this one is a pretty good place to start. I mean, I've heard from some of my favorite booktubers that they loved it, and I've heard from some of my favorite booktubers that they hated it. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, but I'm excited to read it. I'm excited to find out. I'm excited to see what Sally Rooney is all about. I actually read in Yellowface, the book that I mentioned first. She references Sally Rooney in that book because it's about writers and it's about popular writers, and she's referring to her as a popular writer. So I was kind of like, ooh, like I know who that is. So yeah, so I'm excited to read this one. And then I also could not resist The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I own a couple of, at least one other book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't think I've read it, but I do own it. But I've just heard gushing reviews about this book. And also, look, holy cow, like that's so gorgeous. So gorgeous. It's just, oh, it's so pretty. Can you come into my office? Yes, I can. Yeah, so it doesn't give you much, but oh my goodness. I've heard that this book is like I think one of the things I heard is that it's like a rising, like it's a modern classic. Like it's going to become a classic in 100 years or whatever. So we'll see. I'm excited to read this. Next, I have Isola. It's fairly new. I think it came out. Did it come out last year? Oh, copyright this year, it says. Okay. I never knew my mother. She died the night I was born, and we passed each other in the dark. Oh, oh. That was two sentences, but that like sucked me in. I don't know. I don't know. This one, I feel like it's sucking me in already. So I'm excited to read this. Three more books. We're almost done. Give a Boy a Gun by Todd Strasser. This is about a school shooting. I'm sure it's based in our history, you know, because like especially in America, we have a history of school shootings, unfortunately, and there's been some books written about it, and those are oftentimes books that people want to ban, and I just don't think that that is right, and I just want to own them and read them and consider them instead of running away from them with fear. So that's why I got this one. I'm sure it's not going to be a super easy read, but I'm going to read it. The last two I have by the same author, and these are both kind of in the dystopian genre. Again, 1984 and Animal Farm. I know I've read Animal Farm before, I think in high school. I don't think I've read 1984, and if I have, I don't remember it at all. So I really don't think I have. Um, but I really want to. And I'm, like I said, I'm on a dystopian kick this year. So I picked this up and it's a lot bigger than I expected. I was hoping it would be more like this size, but that's okay. I'll do my best. If I have to, I'll get like the Cliff Notes or I'll look it up online. I'm not above that. You know, if I'm reading like a classic book and I'm having trouble getting through it or I'm having trouble absorbing what I'm supposed to be absorbing from it, I'll just look for further resources. Yeah, so I'm going to read these. Let me know if you would like me to do a separate video on this, or I was probably thinking of doing more of a video on just dystopian fiction in general, maybe like all the dystopian fiction I've read in the last like 6 months or something like that, and just talking about each book, and then also maybe talking about why this is such a compelling genre for us and for me. I'm sure it's not for everybody, but for those of us who are compelled by it, why? Why are we so interested in this? Why are authors wanting to write these books? Why are we wanting to read stuff like this? I want to talk about that more. So I think I'm going to do that in a future video. That's it. That's all the books that I got for my birthday. I think that's enough. I think that'll keep me busy for a while. But if it doesn't, I do have a thrift haul coming to the channel in probably a couple of weeks because I also went to the thrift shop for my birthday and I have another basket of books from that, but that's a different video. All right, guys, let me know what you think I should read first. Let me know what you're reading. What are you reading right now? Like I said, I'm reading The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Oh, I'm probably going to finish that in a couple days. It's really, really, really good so far, but I'm like braced for it to get really, really, really sad. I just have a feeling. I have a feeling. Anyways, that's what I'm doing. Let me know what you're doing. Thank you for hanging out with me in my library today. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye.